Okay, we're here to talk about Pluribus on Apple TV, episodes 1 and 2, titled We Is Us and Pirate Lady. This series created by Vince Gilligan, and both of these episodes written and directed by Vince Gilligan. A signal from space is detected and found to be an RNA sequence. Scientists are able to reproduce it in rats, but when one of them bites a scientist, an outbreak occurs, spreading a hive mind virus throughout humanity. In Albuquerque, fantasy romance author Carol Sturka finishes up a book tour with her manager and partner Helen. When they're out one night, Helen and everyone around Carol convulses and collapses. As she takes Helen to the hospital, Carol learns everyone is overrun with this mysterious condition. Back at her house, someone from the White House appears on her TV screen and tells her everyone has been assimilated except for a dozen people who are like Carol. But the goal is to eventually have everyone as a part of this. While burying Helen, Carol is visited by Zosha, a member of the hive mind sent to make contact with Carol. When Carol gets angry at her, Zosha convulses. When she wakes up, Zosha tells Carol that her outburst killed many around the world because they are affected by her negative emotions. Carol demands to meet with the five other English speakers who are not assimilated. When Carol meets with them, she learns most are comfortable with how things are and don't agree with her. And she also meets Kumba, who is using what's happening to get everything that he has ever desired. After learning that 886 million people died during the hive mind's joining on Earth, Carol is enraged again. Kumba tells Carol he's going to Las Vegas and wants to take Zosha with him, but needs Carol's permission. Carol eventually agrees to this, but then at the end of episode 2 runs out to stop his plane before it departs. As I mentioned to you before, this was hard to limit all this detail
Yeah.
into that much, which was certainly a lot. There is very little here in terms of the context, the background, the what's happening here, what these people are infected by, what the condition actually is, and what it's happening, what it's causing amongst all these people on Earth. So I am very excited to dive into this, but I guess just general impressions as you watch this first two episode premiere here.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, hopefully everyone listening has watched this because, yeah, I mean, there's sort of so much that I think you did a good job on your summary, Ryan. But there's all these little details like runs out to stop his plane, which happens to be Air Force One, which was
That's
available for
right.
anyone who asked. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm looking forward to digging in on this, and I think ultimately it'll work out well for us to try to just focus on I was going to say the main things or kind of questions or that sort of thing. I enjoyed this a lot. When I started seeing how positive all the reviews were, I was worried that I was going to be like in some weird minority of people who didn't
Yeah.
think it was great. And maybe I might actually be a little bit less enthused than a lot of people I'm seeing in the world, but I still think it's great, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe what has attracted me the most, it's pretty clear that this is taking a normal sort of story or trope or idea and turning it on its head. I was at least in the early seasons of Walking Dead, huge fan of that, mega fan of The Last of Us. I mean, this is essentially a, post-apocalyptic zombie story, just told in a very, very different way where there's not well, I shouldn't say there's not the death and destruction. There certainly has been, but they're not interested in death and destruction after it's taken over. And so I'm very intrigued by that idea. I'm just blown away by some of the characters in this show. I mean, completely hooked, line and sinker through two episodes. And I, like you, saw everyone saying how great it is. I mean, I think I'm certainly more in that camp than in the it's got some more to do to win me over side.
I think maybe it's yeah, no. I mean I think it is very, very good. And it's captured my imagination, which is always a good sign. Like I watched these episodes last night and
Yeah.
been thinking about it a lot since and so on. Um I agree that I find the premise interesting, well, in a couple of ways, but including what you were saying, it's almost like an inversion of this classical zombie narrative because it's kind of like zombies, but they're very nice. They're very kind.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, um, it's so I don't know. Maybe in a weird way, it's that I get the impression that others found this to be more novel than
Mhm.
I do but maybe that's fine. I'm really curious to see where it goes with this, of course, because some people who wrote these reviews have seen more than these two episodes. So,
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know,
That's true. And I think we certainly have to have that discussion, knowing that we'll talk about this later on, I think, but knowing that there is not a one season, there's a two season order of this series, or where can it possibly go? So we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, I think I'm with you where I was not as blown away by the uniqueness or creativeness of this idea. It just seems to be like, I mean, we've seen hive mind things before. We've seen zombie apocalypse before. We've seen outbreak and virus things before. And so it's just a twist and a spin on that, but very, very well done at the highest level by one of our, genius television creators. So it's just that's I think where I'm at with it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And of course, Ray Seahorn's performance is great. All the acting performances are great, although, like most of these people I'm not familiar with from other
That's right.
places, really. And also the extras, I was listening to the official podcast earlier today. They're doing one per episode, so I only got
Mhm.
through the one on episode one, and I haven't listened to the one on episode two as of yet. But one of the things they were talking about was the extras
Yeah.
and like how well the extras did and how they worked with them and like how much they were kind of asking of them here. I mean, you think about the apocalyptic scene, you're asking all of these people to twitch and seize up and,
Yeah.
all of that. These people are extras, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
um,
It reminds me a lot of the old Greg Nicotero used to do interviews about this in the height of Walking Dead. They used to have zombie training, and you go through school to learn how to act a certain way and do a certain thing. It's sort of they have this is all dozens and in some cases hundreds of extras going through and doing these things. It's just fantastic this level of detail to that particular thing.
yeah. And okay. I thought that scene was great, and I almost don't know how to articulate what I'm about to say. Somehow I felt like I'm thinking in particular when she goes back into the bar, you
Hmm.
know, and there's like the waitress with the beer on her tray,
Yeah.
and that whole scene that you're seeing there in the bar, I felt like it just somehow could have been absolutely terrifying, and instead it was a step short of that. And I'm curious whether you felt that way because I feel like it has to be something in how it was shot or something like that.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I want to say it may be because I actually listened to just the second episode of the official podcast. I haven't
Oh,
listened to the first
interesting.
episode, just the second. And I can't remember if it was here, if I was reading an interview about this, about where they were doing very specific work with the extras and the people in the background on how they smile, like
Yeah.
not taking it to like the creepy level, but just sort of the pleasant level to where you don't read like, oh, Children of the Corn or, just sort of something too nefarious to where they're actually trying to put you in the sense of uh, maybe I'm okay here, or maybe this is all right, and I'm just sort of misreading it and not putting you in a terrifying place. Because, at least in that time when she's in the bar, Carol has absolutely no idea what's going on. She just thinks that, just people are just frozen, it seems like. But there's no reason, I think, at that point for her to think, oh, the world has been taken over. That's sort of where maybe they're going at that point.
Yeah, there's nothing to indicate the world's been taken over necessarily, but that like everyone in the bar is having a seizure,
Hmm.
that's pretty terrifying in and of itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And why and what happened to Helen. And like Ray Seahorn is great through all of this. I really am just pointing to something like super minor where somehow I felt like if they just stuck with some of those shots a couple seconds longer, it would have set in more or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe they
Yeah.
didn't quite want that. Maybe they didn't want it to
Yeah.
be that terrifying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and there are elements of humor too, even there, like when she's trying to get the phone out of the woman's hand in that scene.
Yes. Yeah,
So
I mean the humor in this I think is an underrated aspect of these first two episodes. My favorite part was just the the juxtaposition between her personality at the book signing and how she talks about them afterward and the ways that she treats them, just I mean, this is all just part of the brilliance of Ray Seahorn and this writing. But yeah, there is a lot of really I think, underappreciated humor running through this.
There's a subtlety to it, and yeah, so
Yeah.
maybe even in terms of what I was saying, like part of me wanted that scene in the bar to be more terrifying, but in terms of the tone of the show that they're after, maybe they didn't want it to be as
Yeah.
you know, like it's more it's weird and it's freaking you out, but it's not like the next step, I guess. And
Yes.
maybe that's
Yes.
part of what they want here. Yeah, so you mentioned how she is like a romanticy author. Um, those scenes too, there's a lot of humor in them when she's signing books. There's some great stuff in there.
Yeah, there was one of the podcasts I listened to was I would say someone who is a big fan of that genre, and they were like talking about how, man, you're kind of alienating like a really growing population of book readers at this point because of how popular these types of books are at this point. It's like you're really sort of poking fun at some people, but I found it to be quite humorous, just sort of her interaction with them. I didn't take it very much as you know Carol gets in the car and calls what's her writing basically meaningless crap, I think.
Mindless was might be the
Yeah,
word.
mindless meaningless. Yeah, yeah, just interesting that that's how they have framed who this character is or who she was before this all happened.
Well, it's funny though. I mean, because I think that it's done well, at least as I read all of that. Um, I don't know that I feel like she's being inauthentic when she's signing books. She deals with people
Mhm.
really well. I think it's clear that she cares about her readers, fans, whatever, and about her work, right?
Yeah,
So, on the one hand, there's that self deprecating moment of, like, I don't know, do you like mindless crap that you mentioned? On the other hand, when they're going through the airport, she makes Helen put her books on the top shelf at the
yeah,
airport
yeah,
bookstore. Yeah, like with like eye gestures,
yeah,
just kind of like, you see that thing that's not okay over there, honey? You see that?
yeah.
Go fix it.
Go fix the books. Yeah.
Um, what do you think of her character? Um, I don't know. I mean, in general, I don't mean the performance, but um, maybe this cuts to the question of how she responds to what has happened in contrast
Mhm.
to what we all ultimately see with Kumba, um, and the other people. I didn't make a note of all of their names. I know Lakshmi is the yeah, Indian woman who really doesn't like Carol,
Yes.
but I didn't make a note of the others' names.
Yeah, Kusiyamu, I think I just have him here up on the Kusiyamu, Deshpande, no, not Deshpande, Soleil Cleo, just various, yeah, I mean, again, people you've never seen before, names that are not immediately just sort of resonant to us. Kumba being the only one I think that stands out beyond that initial conversation. But I was sort of struck by this character, the character that Ray Seahorn is playing, Carol, and the log line of the show, which we had access to this, for several months, basically saying that the most miserable person on the planet is to try to save it from happiness or something, right? And so you've got this sense of, okay, we have sort of grounded in who this character is. I think the image that she has there at the Barnes and Noble, the image that she has publicly is probably all created by Helen and have told her what to do and how to act and the ways that she should be in front of her fans. And so if you're going to put someone in this world of just eternal happiness and nothing's wrong and you can have everything you want, I mean, the perfect foil for that is somebody who is just a grump and a miserable person all the time. And so I think that comparison, I think, worked really well.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wonder. I think maybe I'm much more sympathetic to her or immediately in the space of identifying with her as we go through, particularly the opening of the story here. I mean, of course, one thing I find myself thinking about a lot since I watched this last night is um, her beloved dies.
Hmm.
I mean, I think that's important and something we should talk through ultimately. When
Agreed.
she does go and meet these other English speakers, a lot of them have their families, and their families are even
Mhm.
with them, right? And like Lakshmi's insistent that her son is still her son, and so on and so forth. But then you do get the contrast between her and Kuba, who also doesn't really, he doesn't seem to have a family,
Right.
you know. But he's okay with things. So I think it's there's a deeper level to the question that the series is clearly playing with
Hmm.
about the value of individuality, the value of autonomy and like personal liberty as it's tied up with individuality, right? And Carol's clearly on that side of things, right?
Yeah.
She's immediately like, no, 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 right? Like
Yeah.
you're all mindless zombies, and this is the worst. This is the end of the world if we allow
Yeah.
this, right? Whereas we are presented with that contrasting point of view from Kuba, right? He says, I don't know if things are all that bad. Think about it.
Yeah.
No one's being murdered. No
Right.
one's in prison. We've got world peace. We
Yep.
can, eat delicious food. And I don't remember. He doesn't say that, I don't think. Whatever else, I mean, it's implied.
Yeah.
Like, hey, things are pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
But then that carries forward with that whole scene where Zozia, Kuma wants Zozia to come with him to Vegas or whatever, right? But I guess she said Carol needs to give her permission. Um, but Zosie in that scene says that she can't choose because choosing would hurt one of you,
Hmm.
whatever. So I don't know how general that should be read. Like, to what extent can they make choices
Yeah.
in general? Um, but it definitely seems like I mean, it's to the premise of the show. A big thing they're playing with is kind of like, what if we had world peace and you could get whatever you wanted, but it was like this, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I don't know. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I like this comparison of sort of what's happening to them versus the idea of choices, right? Because Carol asks, so just sort of straight up there at the end of episode 2, oh, so you can do square roots in your head, but can you actually make a choice for yourself? And she doesn't give an answer to that. And so you compare that to what Kumba is saying about world peace, everyone's happy, no one's dying, no one's in prison, nothing bad is happening. You can have whatever you want. But in that type of scenario, are you actually making choices? I mean, are you actually choosing certain things when everything is available to you, when everything is freely, just sort of given to you? Are you living any sort of individualistic life, any autonomous life, as you were saying earlier? Even though we may have the things that ideally we want, peace and no murder and all this stuff, to take away the choice or freedom of doing those things, is it worth that trade-off? On that, I say, well, Carol's right. I mean, we have
Yeah, it's
to
like,
figure out a way to make the choice to not do those things, not just being told that, oh, everything's great because we can have whatever we want and no one's going to be harmed as a result of it.
yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting how immediately on Carol's side I was, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And I'd be really curious to try to read things on the internet or whatever as we move forward to see where where other people are landing on that kind of question,
yeah,
because I could definitely you can see like Kumba's position is making a certain kind of sense,
yeah,
but it really is it's kind of a sticky philosophical type question that I've definitely thought about before. And there's definitely other fiction that's played with this. And like one of
mhm.
my big reference points is the movie Zardoz, which I don't know if people have seen
Oh, I've never
Zardoz.
seen that.
This is the one you may well have seen this image, yeah, of Sean Connery with no shirt on, and he's got like a speedo thing and like
Oh,
bullets.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I've seen that picture. Okay.
It's kind of a ridiculous midnight movie kind of thing, but it plays with some similar ideas. The broad question being like, okay, maybe we could have world peace and harmony and all of that,
Hmm.
but maybe that would be terribly boring,
Yeah.
and like maybe nothing would feel meaningful
Right.
in a
That's
certain
right.
way. And I definitely think Pluribus is playing with that. To go back to it to think about Zozia in that scene. Um, Kumba wants her to come with him to Vegas, right?
Hmm.
And then I think it's pretty clear that he already has assembled something of like a harem.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a international supermodel harem he's got going on here. Yeah.
Is love possible?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I
Not
don't. I
not
don't
not
think.
without that kind of individuality and autonomy and so on.
Yeah, and that's interesting that that's the question. I don't think it's possible, but how much Zoja talks about wanting to make a connection with Carol, want to try to, build something with her. That's not, she's not building emotional connection. She's not building love, not building a relationship. She's just building a, we'll give you everything you want as long as you sort of fall in line with us relationship. That's not connection. That seems to be the type of relationship that Kumba is looking for, or that is, he's decided to pursue in this type of environment. That's kind of why I put this question in our notes of I found it interesting that these six characters have this meeting 2 days, maybe less than 2 days after all this happens, right?
Hmm.
So they're dealing with a very limited amount of time of being exposed to this, very limited amount of information. They're just meeting these people for the first time. And yet, in that short amount of time with limited amount of information, Carol has decided we got to fix this, find a cure, figure out a way out of this. Kumba has decided I want to just every worldly pleasure I've ever wanted, I'm gonna go grab it. And I think, yes, I'm certainly on Carol's side here. And yet, Carol has been told right before this, well, we're months away from figuring out a way for you to be, the people that we didn't quite grab, these 12 or 13, figure out a way to assimilate them. And so if I had that information, and I just figured like, well, it's hopeless. In 6 months, I'm going to be assimilated anyways, no matter what. Which way would I go? I think that's a harder question.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if I quite read it that way, even to start with the last thing you said. I recall the line when they say they're months away or whatever. But I didn't view that as an inevitability. I kind of thought maybe they just still had no idea why certain people are immune, and
Yeah,
they're expressing some confidence that they'll figure it out, you know?
yeah, yeah. And that may be it. That may be in an attempt to get Carol in line. We tell you, oh, we're months away from being able to figure this out. It's sort of, um, what's the line? I'm completely drawing a blank on it. But basically, it's pointless to resist. Pointless to
Resistance is
resist.
futile.
Resistance is futile. That's
Yeah.
what I'm blanking on.
Join the
Yes.
Borg, man.
Yeah.
But in contrast to the Borg, these others seem pretty happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, a couple other things I wanted to say in relation to what you were just saying, because I also think it opens up some narrative pathways moving forward, potentially. So one is, will Kumba get bored?
Hmm.
And I think maybe, and it could be interesting if that's something that plays out. Um, the other, um, sort of something of a two-parter. As I said before, I think it is really important that Helen dies, not just because this makes Carol so angry, but thinking about these other characters we meet briefly, and look, like maybe they'll factor into the story again later, but in all
Hmm.
honesty, I didn't make a note of their names because they're gone by the end of episode two,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The other people who are unaffected who speak English are gone besides Kumba. But it seems like for them, and maybe Lakshmi in particular, whose name did stick with me, well, they experience this happening in the context of it happening to their loved ones, to their
Hmm.
family, right? And then, of course, you want to believe that your son is still your son
Correct.
and
Yeah.
not just some mindless zombie part of a hive mind sort of thing.
Yes.
And Carol didn't have that experience at all. Like you can kind of imagine in what way might she have reacted differently if Helen had survived,
I,
but
I
been affected.
completely agree with you. I mean, this was, I mean, this particular thing, and going back to the Walking Dead example, was a major story, I think, in season two of, a child who got infected, and this whole idea of what can we do, what can we save. Um, I want to also clarify something with you. Maybe I missed this. So, the vast majority of people, I mean, not vast, but the majority of people who had this happen to them and had this seizure and collapse get back up, and they are now a part of this hive mind. Why did Helen not survive? Did something happen to her? Why did she die?
My interpretation of this, and I was thinking about it, there's a way you put pressure on it still, but getting ahead of myself, sorry. First, my interpretation of why she died. She falls directly smack on the back of her head on the pavement,
Okay.
right? So my interpretation of it is she died because of how she felt.
Okay.
Now, one thing you might worry about or wonder about here is like other people didn't fall. That yeah, like that waitress was like standing there
Yeah.
shaking with the tray and stuff like that. Um, so I don't know how that hangs together exactly. But it led me to think that everyone who died in this sort of way. Or
Hmm.
like the guy in the truck who didn't die. Well, but if he crashed in a different way, he would have, right?
Yes. Yes.
So all and similarly with the people who die because of Carol's anger, which that's funny too, but it's
Yeah.
darkly funny, and I want to talk
Yeah.
about
Well,
that more in
part
depth.
of that 886 million people who died are people who had seizures while they're driving, people who had seizures while they're flying, people, in situations where the seizure causes them to die by some position they are in or something that is unavoidable. Okay. That's just what happened as a result of this hive mind having to speed up the process of assimilating everyone, right? That's not what they wanted to happen, but it happened. They got through it. And so that being said, yeah, I think that's just where I didn't exactly see Helen in that situation, but to your point, it could just be fell, brain damage, concussion, dead.
I think so because I mean, if you watch it, she just smacks right onto the pavement.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, but there might be something there that we shouldn't gloss over too quickly. You can bear it in mind as a question, maybe, but that was my initial read of that. That's why she died because of how she fell, and then yeah,
Mhm.
everyone else. It's car crashes, plane crashes, like presumably a bunch of planes crashed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With all the pilots season it. Um, let's go then next to that kind of question. Um, when they're having lunch or whatever,
Hmm.
we learned that they do not kill.
Right.
Um, they try not to even step on bugs, right? So they literally wouldn't harm a fly on purpose. So are they vegetarians? Yes, that's what they prefer. We couldn't give you a lobster because the only lobster around was alive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It will be interesting to see how they play with this moving forward because even Kuba is he starts having some worries, right? He starts asking like, "Well, what if I killed a fish? Would you cook it for me?
Yeah.
All right, good enough, good enough." And I don't know what you think about that in general, or if you know Ryan that I'm a vegetarian, so I'm like fine with that part of it.
Oh, no, I did not know that. Okay.
Um, but it's not to the point I'm trying to get at anyway. The point I'm trying to get at is on the one hand, they're insistent that they will not kill.
Hmm.
On the other hand, they caused all of these deaths
Okay,
by
good.
um accelerating, as they put it, the process of the joining. There's another question there of what exactly happened. There's a brief mention of the military and stuff. So there are
Yes.
other questions there that we might visit ultimately in this story. But any thoughts on that kind of almost philosophical question about how on the one hand they could be thoroughly committed to not killing on purpose, but okay with having caused all of these deaths?
Yes. Okay. So this to me, I think, might be one of the fundamental questions of the series, which is they make a point to say, we don't kill, we don't hurt, we don't, we make every effort to not destroy or harm or do anything, even to the point where not just harm or kill or injure, but Zosha's saying, I can't make you feel sad by me choosing to go with Carol
Hmm.
or with Kumba, right? And yet they were okay or made the trolley problem decision about we will speed up the process, knowing that millions upon millions upon millions of people would die if we did that. So it came down to a biological survival instinct. They're okay with it. But if it's just, once we get everything the way we want it, then we'll revert back to our sort of preference or our mode of operations, which is we can't kill. So when faced with that decision, they're gonna kill, they're gonna hurt, but not when it's not what they prefer or want to do.
Yeah, or is it like a weird kind of utilitarian distinction they're trying to make, where okay, this is justified for the greater good, but they're also kind of trying to weasel out being responsible for those deaths, for those negative consequences, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
we won't kill anyone on purpose. We're not going to harm anyone on purpose. If
Right.
our intention was to do something good, and
Hmm.
that ended up meaning that 886 million people died, sorry about that.
Yeah. That was on the
That
military.
wasn't,
That wasn't our plan. That was on you for finding us out and, threatening to end us.
or like that, it wasn't what we intended to do, therefore, we're not responsible.
Exactly the problem. That's it.
Something,
That's, I think, the question.
something like that's being played with there. And then I wonder, yeah, I mean, I thought it was all really well done in terms of how they um, set this up with the scenes at the lab and everything.
Hmm.
Another little nugget from the official podcast is they had actual scientists who work there playing the extras in those scenes.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I just thought that was kind of cool. And like they asked people to volunteer if they wanted to do it, and so many people volunteered they had to have like a lottery.
Wow.
That
Okay.
was a cool little nugget. Drawing forward from that, though, piecing things together, it would seem that okay, well then they're like bringing other people in then and slowly joining with more and more people, of course, thinking of benefiting them. And I guess we have to infer from that remark Zosia makes that at some point, like the military found out and was going to shut them down and kill them or whatever,
Yeah.
something like that. Again, I wonder if we'll learn more
Yeah.
about that.
I would imagine we'll see or hear something more about that. I saw it speculated a couple of places that, because it's sort of the sense that everything's fine when Carol and Helen are out, everything's fine, and then everyone starts having a seizure, and it just sort of takes over. That when no, when Carol is outside and looking up and sees the multiple planes flying sort of in parallel across the sky, and you see that chemical trail, that's them like dropping the thing on them that causes it to happen, right? Because we have to accelerate all of this.
Yeah.
And that, clearly that was not the plan, but we have to make sure that this succeeds, so we'll do whatever it takes. Yeah, so I think there is something there about a theory like that. And I can only hope that we go back and see sort of this is what, this is how people learn. This is what the reaction was. This is what the response was. I hope we see something like that. That's a
Yeah.
pretty common like flashback thing for a zombie trope.
Yeah. We get some flashbacks or what have you. Maybe, hopefully. Any thoughts about how they emptied the zoos?
Yeah, just they see imprisonment as pain or harm.
They care about the other species too.
They do. They won't step on a
Yeah.
bug. They will. Yeah. And I think that, yeah, no one or no species needs to be locked up or put in an environment that they don't want to be in. So they empty them out.
But yeah, but it is a wrinkle, right? I mean, I think it's funny how they play with this kind of thing where, um, again, in many ways, I personally would be on board or like at least get the arguments. Like, we can't have zoos.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the argument against zoos. However, the idea of simply releasing all the animals from the zoos,
Yeah.
there's some problems with that idea, which they
Definitely.
also mentioned briefly, right?
There's lions and tigers started yeah, attacking
Start
people.
mauling people. um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to more stuff like that. Um, let's see, I've kind of been holding off on a line of thinking I want to get into, um, but maybe it's about time. I wonder what if any of this occurred to you at all, or to what degree. Okay, because I'm also wondering to what degree it is self-conscious for Vince Gilligan.
Mm,
Because what he said on that first episode of the official podcast in terms of his inspiration for the show is he started thinking about it like 8 to 10 years ago about
yeah.
some story about what if you could get whatever you wanted or whatever, right? So like actually his starting point was more with Kumba,
Yes. Yes.
which is funny. But a lot of things here bear a lot of resemblance to ideas that are out there in like conspiracy theory spaces
Hmm.
where we're talking QAnon type folks and stuff like
Yeah.
this. And I don't know how familiar you are there, but um with some of the anti-vax stuff coming with the COVID-19 vaccine and the mRNA aspect of that, you'd hear people talking about putting forward this kind of theory like this is a matter of the globalists rewriting your DNA to make you
Right.
more pliant to their agenda and all of that kind of stuff. And there's some similarity here. I mean, like we're
Yeah.
talking about an RNA code or whatever. And he already mentioned the chemtrails,
Yeah.
right? And maybe there was something else that oh, the other thing that I wanted to bring in along similar type lines, although it's not quite conspiracy theory. Um, Carol's anger is literally triggering the others.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to think about all of this. I mean, like,
Yeah.
and I can't. I almost wish I didn't find myself going down the path of this sort of interpretation, but um, it's going to matter what the show does with it. But I just found myself coming out of the first two episodes having this little gnawing kind of worry that it was a little too easy for me to imagine some right wing nut job looking me in the
Yeah.
eye and saying, that show's real, right?
Yeah. I think that I mean I certainly think that all things because Vince Gillen is such a stickler and such pays so much attention to detail. I think that that type of theme and resonance is there for a reason. I thought before I even started digging into what people are saying or thinking about this show, thought it was very COVID-19 coded, where talking so much about isolation, being alone, not having one around, keeping people at a distance. And if you'll just assimilate, if you'll just get the vaccine, if you'll just do the right things, you'll be able to, come back into society again. And there's some of that messaging there, sort of parallel to what you're talking about. I don't think that's Vince Gilligan's message or his politics or what he wants to get across, but it's just very interesting that it's very, very prevalent. It's almost hard to ignore it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I could well see him just being kind of, in a way, inspired by these ideas and then factoring them in a science fiction type way. And
Yeah.
then, like, I don't know if that is at all dangerous to do or anything. I don't know if I'm certainly not trying to argue right now after the premiere that it's feeding
Right.
into paranoid conspiracy theories in a problematic way or anything, but it's there enough that I don't know. I'm really curious to see how they play. He must know at some level what he's doing, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
and even the title of the show also has a kind of political gesture to it, right?
Yep. Yep. E
E
pluribus unum.
pluribus
Yes.
unum, right? So yeah, it's just I don't know. I was just curious what you thought about that because it was really striking to me as I thought it through to what extent it could be read almost as Carol being the more right-wing individualist objecting to
Yeah. Yeah.
the impingements on autonomy in order to make your lives better. I don't know, man. I'm really
That's
curious to see what they do with all of that, I guess.
And Vince Gilligan already multiple times come out saying that he, wrote this for her because he wanted to write a quote unquote good guy. She is the hero of this story. She is the protagonist, even though she is a curmudgeon and miserable, and no one likes her, and she's not like everyone else. She is his hero in this, and so yeah, it's kind of hard to miss when you sort of put those puzzle pieces together.
Yeah. I mean, I guess one point that we could well make is so stuff like this is not happening in the real world.
That's
There
right.
is not some cabal of global elites, and you're not going to be turned into a zombie by 5G, and like none of that is true at all, right? It's
Right.
like,
Right. Right.
that is what felt like the risk to me a little bit because I'm definitely in the position of none of that is true at all,
Correct.
and I guess maybe just a little bit worried about someone watching the show and feeling like it's a hyperbolic representation of these real things or
Yeah.
something. So okay, I wanted to get to that. I couldn't help it ultimately, particularly because Ryan, for a minute when I was watching through the first time, I didn't quite catch it, and I found myself asking, okay, but how did they spread it to everyone all at once?
Right.
And then I
Right.
realized it was the chemtrails. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
stuff that,
it seemed there was this plan to start very small and very isolated. She says they went to the people in the submarines and the space station, just sort of get the outliers and then start small by, you know, discreetly passing saliva from person to person to person. And that would just sort of stay under the radar with all this. Don't make a big show of it. And eventually we'll have everyone assimilated. But they had to accelerate it. So there was a plan to do that, or was a method to do that, and they had to enact it. But yeah, it was very much not wanting to be in people's faces about it. It was just supposed to happen, very slowly, very methodically, but just couldn't accomplish all of it.
yeah, I guess. So yeah, I mean, hopefully, I am hoping for maybe some flashback there. We'll see. I mean, I definitely trust Vince Gilligan. So if
Yeah.
he doesn't want to give me a flashback, he won't give me a flashback. That's fine.
Yeah.
Um, a couple other things to mention, just to get them out there as questions. They're sort of
Yes.
big questions, and I don't know how much we even could pull on to speculate about the answers. One is the source of the signal.
Okay. I'm glad we are sort of working backwards in this show. I think it makes the most
Yeah,
sense. Going back to the very beginning now, because
yeah,
yeah, this is not like an alien invasion or someone came and took over. This is not a even a true zombie outbreak where a virus was created and it took over everyone. This signal was sent to Earth by someone somewhere for some reason. And maybe the most important question of the show is why?
yeah.
Why do they want everyone this way? So they can come take us over? So they can drain our resources? What is it? But someone sent this for a purpose. It's very contact. I don't know if you've seen that movie or read that book. It's very contact related to in that sense that
Yeah,
sent this thing for a purpose. And what is that purpose? That's maybe one of the things I'm most intrigued to find out.
me too. I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, I find myself wondering. Is there some other planet out there full of human beings, but who had this nucleotide already? And of
Right.
course, they think it's so good and life is so much better. And they've seen us and they're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like they're human beings, but they're killing each other and stuff, and so they're gonna like give us this gift. That's one
Yeah.
possibility that occurs to me.
And also play on the idea that as humans, we will certainly take the bait. We will not receive an RNA sequence and not try to reproduce it, and use it in some way.
Oh yeah, we're definitely doing it. Oh man, RNA sequence from space.
Let's done.
Let's put it in some rats. Hurry
Yeah.
up. Let's see
That
what
that 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 was
happens.
that was very, if people haven't seen this movie or read this book, that was very Contact to me, right? All of a sudden we just start receiving plans to build this machine from space. Oh God, well we got to build. In fact, let's build two of them.
Yeah.
It's just let's just like it's just our arrogance and our pompousness with all of that.
The
Yeah.
sad thing is how plausible
Yeah.
it is, though. I mean, like in the real world, you see some news story and it's like Arctic scientists discover 20 million year old worm in ice, and we're like, leave it alone.
Yeah.
It's like, of course they're not. Haven't you seen that episode of the X Files? Haven't you seen the thing? Other big question: why is Carol immune?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, we may not ever know that.
We
I hope
might
we
not.
do. We may not ever figure that out, especially since we're down to like Carol and Kumba as the only two people that we may interact with anymore that are immune. So I don't frankly know if we'll get an answer to that.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we've got a dozen people overall. We haven't met all of them. It's possible at some point we could meet the ones who don't speak English.
Yeah,
Um, I feel like Carol only wanted to meet the English speakers because she wanted to be able to talk to them
yeah,
privately, right?
correct,
I mean,
correct.
that's how I read that. But we could still encounter those other characters. But would there be anything? I guess it's also a question from the point of view of the others.
Hmm.
The we should have made this note earlier. Okay, on that official podcast, they referred to all the creepy, nice zombies as others. That's maybe going to be useful terminology for us.
Very, very, very referencing Lost, certainly.
Yeah, and I think Game of Thrones too, at least in the books.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I haven't read those books, but my recollection is that I'm reading that they didn't use the term others in the show because of Lost, basically.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's
So,
right.
anyhow, oh man, what was I saying? Oh yeah, from their perspective, they want to figure out why Carol is immune and these
Mhm.
other, in order to fix it, you know. So on that front, right, I maybe we will find out because like what? No, I mean it might be just like a kind of mumbo jumbo non-answer.
Yeah,
We discovered what it is about your particular DNA or whatever. I mean it's not implausible to imagine that there would be some small number of people immune to anything.
yeah,
Like I think that like there are small numbers of people who are like just immune to HIV, something
yeah,
it's just like that
yeah,
doesn't affect
yeah.
me, you know. Um so I mean there's some plausibility there, but will we get anything more of an explanation? And mostly, I guess I do wonder from that perspective because if they do figure it out and then they want to do the joining with Carol, it seems pretty
Hmm.
clearly she's going to say no.
Yeah,
And she
exactly.
already asked the guy on the TV set what happens when she says no and didn't really get
That's
an
right.
answer.
Yeah, you've already told us you can't. this goes back to the biological instinct or the survival instinct. You've told us you can't or don't want to kill, harm, injure, make someone sad, make someone upset. But Carol is a is a weapon of mass destruction against them, right? All she has to
Well,
do is get angry, and millions upon millions of them die. And so, what would they do to her if they can't, if she refuses this?
yeah.
I think that she impacts their survival, so they would want to do something to her.
Yeah, I don't know if it would go quite like that though. I mean, of course, she doesn't want to do that.
Right.
She's pretty upset to learn that she has accidentally caused the deaths of millions of people.
Yeah.
That's not what she wants. But yeah, I mean, you put me in mind of another way to put the points we were hitting on earlier. Um, they don't kill, won't kill, um, won't intentionally hurt your feelings, even apparently, but are perfectly fine, it would appear, to doing something they believe will benefit you to you against your will.
Correct. That's exactly right. Yep.
So, would they in any way respect Carol's choice to not join?
Yeah.
Um, it seems like they would not. We'll see, I guess. I mean, if that even comes up, you know.
Yeah.
I did find myself wondering, you mentioned the two season order.
Yeah.
How much story is there here?
Okay. I have this exact same question. Exact same question, right? So, what can really be done over 2 seasons? She's gonna sit around and try to keep convincing Kumba to help her find a way out of this. Kumba's gonna visit more places he wants to visit, do more things he wants to do, and find more supermodels. And Carol's just gonna go deeper and deeper into depression and isolation. It's like, yeah, what is this story here? What can happen? Which leads me to go a number of different directions. One, which we just talked about, which is they're pursuing something to turn Carol or assimilate Carol, and she refuses. And so there becomes this battle of something, wills or otherwise. Carol has to turn herself into a weapon to survive. There is a sense of we're introduced to more people that we find out that are immune to this or that want to fight this, or something happens to start letting people break free. It's just so much was unveiled and revealed in these first 2 episodes. It's hard to think, okay, if there's 16 episodes of this that they've planned out, where exactly are we going? And I actually like that I have no idea where's that.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that as well. I think we're on similar pages here. I find myself thinking there are, broadly speaking, kind of two possibilities.
Hmm.
One possibility is that actually, really, through the first 2 episodes, we haven't quite gotten to the story. We've just been introduced to the setting of the story.
Correct. Correct.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for. And then I have no idea where we're going, right?
Yeah.
The other possibility that occurs to me though would be okay, no, this is really the plot that we've started working into, and the plot is through this premise itself.
Yeah.
In which case, I find myself wondering if they got a 2 season order because it's going to be a 2 season show,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know, and that's all the story it is, and you can kind of imagine it taking 16 hours to work through this premise, and then that would be all.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. Really curious to see what happens next, either way, and yeah, I've been enjoying it. Looking forward to talking about it with you each week.
Yeah.
Other things you want to hit on with this one?
Oh, it's been pretty comprehensive. I know we'll have a lot more in the future. Want to just maybe put a pin in the fact that that Kumba has the nuclear football, and will that come back into play at some point, even though he doesn't think it works anymore? That's a weird thing to introduce and not have it come back up.
This is good though. Yeah, actually, let's talk a little bit more along those lines. He doesn't think it works anymore. I believe he is correct, right?
Hmm.
But this implies that um, they have disabled, well, maybe everything in terms of nuclear weapons and so on and so
Yeah,
forth, which would fit with what they're doing in general, right? Um, but there are a couple other things too. Cell phones no longer work.
that's right.
And the only channel, it would seem, that works on Carol's TV is C-SPAN, where she
That's
gets to
right.
talk to the individual who was the USDA secretary or whatever.
Undersecretary of Agriculture and something. Yeah.
I'm forgetting his name now. I think Davis something.
David
Um,
Taffler. Yeah, something like
yeah, Tafler. That seems great too, by the way. Very funny.
that.
Um, but I think this is worth noting, and I don't know that we quite had yet. It seems like they've meaningfully dismantled a lot of the
Hmm.
technology that we're used to as well. But not all of it. They're flying jets around and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but in terms of television,
Yep.
uh, phones,
Wireless
social.
network. Yeah, I'm sure the internet networks are down. Um,
So I mean,
unless
is
they
it just
need
that they
them,
got
unless
rid
they
of?
need them for some reason. Yeah.
Is it that they got rid of all the satellites?
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There could be some interesting stuff the show might play with along those lines. Um, we'll see. Or maybe it's just a thought that this stuff makes you miserable, and they have no
Yeah.
desire to
There we go
scroll social
again.
media. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, why would they have a desire to scroll social media? That's true. Then we hit on this question before, but I think it's a good place to leave it. There's a big question that I hope we'll explore more in terms of to what extent are these people still the people they were?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Every zombie show or movie is looking for a cure and hopes that we can distribute that cure and everybody goes back to normal. And that never happens. So, yeah, what happens in this scenario? That's a good question.
Yeah, because we do see some stuff. I mean, the one young woman, she wants the joining, right? One of the ones
Hmm.
who where it didn't work. The other, I mean, Lakshmi, I believe her name is, seemed pretty okay with it and insists that her family's still her family and her son's still her son and all of that. And
Yep.
Carol's needling her by asking her son about what speculum he would use during an exam and stuff. Because it's like everyone knows everything apparently now, or share all
Yes.
knowledge in common.
That's right. That's right.
So, to what extent is there any individuality left amongst these others? I don't think that question has been explored as much as hopefully it will be moving forward.
I think it absolutely will be. Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks always for listening to the podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If so, please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back each week talking about Pluribus episode by episode. You can also check out tvobsessive.com for written work on any number of TV shows, past and present. And follow the site on social media. If you search for TV Obsessive, you should find us. And yeah, we'll be back with you next week.
All right. See you next time.